So, Kieron, firstly, a massive warm welcome to your own meditation, the full moon meditation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's always lovely. And we say this every month, but it comes around so quickly. It only feels like you just relax off for a little bit and then you're being slapped in the face with the new moon and then it's full moon all over again.
I know. And do you know what? This has become a thing for me now where when we come together, I sort of look back at where I was this time last month to the last time I spoke to you. And it's kind of like a refreshing checkpoint or line in the sand I seem to have every month now. And I know, but lots of people listening to this are going to be saying, Jason, where have you been? Why have there been no new episodes out? So I'm going to address that now on this episode, because the last episode was actually Kieron's episode. So I've been super busy doing lots of things involving my work and my business, and just taking some time out for me, because I think you mentioned this, Kieron, when we got talking before we started pushing the record button. I think the soul sync for me is all about being authentic and, having something important to say. And I never want this podcast to be forced or to be a job, because I really care about the content in it. And all I can say is when I do finally get back to recording some episodes, which I must admit, I do have an exciting backlog of episodes. There is a lot of really exciting ones that I am going to put out. When I do get back to it soon, I promise, very soon, I'll have a lot to say and a lot to tell you, because it's been a really interesting period. But Kieron, this isn't about me. This isn't about me. This is about the full... People are saying, yes, it is about you, Jason. We want to hear more. You're alluding to things, but not telling us anything. This is about the full moon. And the full moon this month is on Sunday, October the 20th. And I believe it's the Hunter's moon.
It is, yeah. And the Hunter's moon is an interesting one, because we would imagine the hunters being dynamic, getting out, doing stuff, getting all heads up. And because this full moon is in Aries, that is kind of the case. But there's also Libra is also very much in the mix there. So it's about balance. It's about being able to move with purpose dynamically when it's the right time, but also stepping back and being a bit reflective. Now, I'm just guided by my guides and spirit when I do this type of stuff. So I just tune in and see what it is when we go where we go in. And so interestingly for me, this particular meditation is very much on the path of quiet reflection. It's not necessarily dynamic running through the forest and grabbing bits and pieces. It's very much taking some time out to reflect on where we are. The full moon in October, the Celtic moon of the year, this is the last full moon of the year before we come to Samhain or to what's Halloween. So it's very much the end of, like an end of term report, really, end of term assessment.
I like time. That. That's a nice way to put it, isn't it? We all love one of those, Kieron.
Well, it's interesting. I read my mum found my old school reports recently, and there was very much of, sometimes Kieron does very well, but other times he really struggles. And, so he needs to work harder, which has been a recurring theme throughout my entire life. But
you don't want to know what mine said, Kieron, honestly.
So, but it is about that reflection and being honest with yourself, but also not being, because we tend to be in our modern world very critical, hypercritical of ourselves.
Oh, yes.
So we should be honest about our reflection when we're looking at these things, and honest about where we've come, and give ourselves a lot of positive reinforcement about the things we have achieved, because people see achievements in lots of different ways, and people in our modern world see achievements as having a big house, big car, lots of success and shiny things. But success can be just being able to get out of bed in the morning when you're having a difficult day, or accepting or knowing that you can't get out of bed in the morning, and that's okay too. So it is about honest reflection.
Do you want to know something interesting on that point, actually? So I've been listening to this audiobook on a book called The Four Agreements, which I've had for a while, but it hasn't left the bookshelf. But I got the audiobook version, and it said something in there which you just made me think of with what you said. And it said that we are always striving, for this version of perfection that we have in our own mind, and we're striving to be this particular model of the way we perceive we should be in this world. And it went on to make a very good point where it said, no one in our life abuses us as much as ourselves. You know, the pressure we put ourselves under, constantly beating ourselves up. I should have done this. I should have done that. You know, no one will ever abuse you as much as, you know, you abuse yourself. And it really made me stop and think, because I thought, you know what, it's very, very, very true. And then it started to talk more about relationships we have in our lives, and, you know, how our version of ourself and the amount of self-esteem we have within ourselves will dictate the relationships we have and how we allow ourselves to be treated. And it just made me think of that when you were saying that, because I think we do give ourselves a hard time. And I think that we're all striving to do so many things. Sometimes just getting out of bed is enough. I agree. And, you know, I think we need to give ourselves a bit more slack and a lot more self-love. I think a lot of us don't give ourselves enough self-love. And I know that I'm guilty of that at times, because I hold myself to such ridiculously high standards, you know, and sometimes I have to go, Jason, be kind to yourself, be your best friend, talk to yourself like you'd want to, you know, talk to a friend, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we had somebody in our life that talked to us the way that we talk to ourselves, then any healthy relationship would mean you would cut that person out of your life and not put up with it. So we do, and this is part of that self-reflection process and honesty, and being kind to yourself is incredibly important, and accepting of things, you know, that you can change, that you can't change, that you would like to change. So, you know, it's a challenging time. And, you know, this last month we went through the eclipses, we went through lots of transformative energy. There was all kinds of things going on astrologically, which were very challenging and very difficult. And we're kind of sat in a bit of a liminal space at the moment, not knowing which way is forward, how to get things, lots of challenges coming up, lots of revelations and trickiness. So it is about being kind to yourself and rewarding yourself. You know, not necessarily with ice cream and Jaffa cakes, although that's very nice too. But
nothing wrong with that.
Oh, big fan. But you know, being this time of, as I said many times now, honest reflection. And the other thing that this full moon talks about is being able to get out in nature to help us integrate, to be aware of the changing of the seasons, that autumn is upon us, because in the retail world, we go straight from summer to winter. And everyone,
we do. You
get out in the world now and people go, oh God, it's so cold. It's winter is upon us and all this nonsense. It's 20 degrees outside today, you know?
Yeah. Not shutting yourself away, just because the nights are getting shorter.
Yeah.
Not, you know, bunking down into your cave and not coming out again until, you know, end of April. That's not what we're trying to do here. I think that's, you know, I think that's a very well made point. And do you know what? I like getting out and about in autumn. I like it.
It's beautiful. We can see things start to fade away. We can still see the leaves start to fade off the trees and the apples fall and things start to rot. And we think of those things as being bad. But if those things didn't rot down into the soil again, they wouldn't provide the nutrients for things to grow in the springtime. That's the whole point of fruit, is that it provides you know, when it rots down, it provides those nutrients in the soil so that the seeds in the center of the fruit can grow again. And we can take that on board as a sort of a state of being for ourselves, is that we may be taking things more slowly there. We may not be achieving so much over the next few months, but we are still going through that process of having sown those seeds, having let those things happen, let things go and let things move and let things be released as well. It's very important to release those things we no longer serve us and to use them for their best purpose, which is very important.
I love that kind of way of looking at it, being present with nature and, you know, understanding, you know, those moments of stopping to really think, okay, yes, this is why the leaves are falling. This is why it's happening. This, you know, I really like that, because it, you know, suddenly makes you feel very small within the whole universe that we are and how it all works and things like that. So I like that. And, you know, I think that's, if you can tune into nature more, that's obviously going to be very good for anyone's spiritual growth, whatever you're trying to achieve. So like you said, obviously, period of reflection now, taking the time to, look at one's achievements. And I think, we can all be very quick to overlook those because if you're anything like me, I don't want to look too much in the rear view mirror, Kieron. I'm constantly focused on the road ahead, but I think it's important. So, well, I'm excited. I'm excited, Kieron, because I want to do some reflection and I'm going to be doing this meditation. You have very beautifully and very kindly, and if you don't know by now that I'm a fan of Kieron's meditations, where the hell have you been? Where have you been? You tell us about, you've done a very kind, special deal, for people that listen to the Soul Sync. Tell us what that's all about, because you told me before we got recording, that you're offering, a discount on a soul retrieval, and I've had one of your soul retrievals, and the experience was very profound afterwards, and it was very good for me. So tell us a bit about that.
Okie dokie, thanks. Some of the work that I do is I do healing with an energetic healing system, Pendragon Reiki, which is dragon based, which is what I do, and I work with the Violet Flame as well, and I do soul fragment retrieval, bringing back the parts of people that may have been released through trauma. We can bring them back when they're ready to return. This time of year, when the veil is thin and our sort of psyche and the shadow self is very much to the fore, it's a really good time to do those types of things. So what I thought would be nice for people that listen to your podcast is that I'm offering 25% off those healings. So if I've got a little Soul Sync specific coupon. So when you go to my website and click on something, you can put a coupon in, and if you put in Soul Sync 25,
Soul Sync 25.
Soul Sync 25.
My age, Kieron, obviously.
Yeah, it's my age. Age? No, it's my IQ. I was going to say, but I couldn't even get that right.
Soul Sync 25 on your website. Do you know what? Because the soul retrieval as well, where I first came across them, because it was almost like a synchronicity, I had read, I was getting really into, and I'm still really into shamanic stuff and kind of all of that world. And that was the first time that I came across the concept of soul fragments and soul retrievals. And, when I did it, then you sort of popped along, as these things often do. And then when we done it together, then 2 days later, I felt like these memory rings almost coming back to me. And the soul fragments that you retrieved for me some of them were when I was in a relationship in school, and I thought I'd found my first love, and it was all very traumatic as these childhood things are. And at the time it was devastating, but I would never have thought of that being as a soul fragment I could have lost, because I would have thought, I've never even think about that now. It's like, and when it came back to me, I could totally see why that fragment and part of my life had got somewhat left behind, that fragment. So yeah, it was interesting when I did it with you. Very interesting, and I'm sure I want to go on another fragment expedition soon.
Yeah, and that's the point, is when these things happen to us, they can be very traumatic. But as an adult, or as a part of that reflection, as we said again, we can go, oh no, that wasn't, I can understand why that wasn't so traumatic. But the part of us is still there, missing. So when we bring them back without the trauma, without the sadness, without the fear, but with that intrigue of, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that particular thing. When I did some myself a few years back, I remembered lots of things from school, and I had, that I had completely forgotten, and no idea that it was missing until I got it back, if that makes sense.
Well, you described it to me in a good way, and I think it's worth mentioning this. And I've heard it described in this way before, that you could, if your soul fragments are, do look more into soul fragments, or contact Kieron if you want to find out more, because some of you might be scratching your head going, what the bloody hell are you on about? But people, the way you described it to me was, you could be like a phone battery that only charges 70% because, the battery is a bit bust, and that's the max charge. And then, through going back and retrieving those fragments, you can sort of get more of a fuller charge. And I did notice, and I'm not just saying this, in the days that followed, I felt more, I would use the word aligned. I just felt more harmony, and more kind of at peace. So,
Mm.
it was very, very, very profound. So yes. Anyway, Kieron, I'm sure I should allow you the great honour of introducing us to this month's, and I will just quickly say, if you do want to visit Kieron's website to make life easy, just go to show notes. Kieron, please go ahead and introduce for us this month's full moon meditation.
Okay, everyone. So with the nights drawing in and a time of reflection as we get to the end of the wheel of the year, we have an opportunity now to sit back and reflect, but also an opportunity to connect with our ancestors as well. So there's opportunities here. So under the beautiful, loving gaze of this month's Hunter's full moon, take some time for yourself and just sit back and relax and enjoy. Close your eyes then. Take a few deep breaths. Get comfortable. Relax. Let your body find its own natural rhythms with your breath. Try to make the out-breath slightly longer than the breath in. And as you do, let your body relax. Let your muscles relax. As you breathe more deeply, as you start to relax, softly and gently the walls and ceiling and floor start to fade from your vision. And you are drawn out of this reality, out of the everyday, out of your world, up into the clouds, up into the night sky, dancing and moving, soft and gentle, like an autumn leaf upon a breeze. You follow this leaf, this pattern, this dance and movement. And you are drawn downwards, down into an ancient forest. You can see the colours of the leaves start to change, to umbers, to browns. The hedgerows are starting to change colour, as is the forest. Flowers starting to wilt and fade. The spine of the world starting to be seen again. You find yourself walking upon a pathway. This path is well worn. It is well used. It is familiar to you. The pathway itself draws you home. Up the hill, to the edge of the forest, and as the trees start to thin out, you're in an open space. On the right-hand side of the pathway, a vegetable patch. Many of these have been gathered, stored inside the cottage which is on your left-hand side now. It is old, slightly tired, but it is watertight and warm and cozy. You are carrying the last of the season's herbs, the last gifts of the harvest that the forest has to offer. And as you walk in, up the pathway, in through the front door, you move into that space, the kitchen, hanging from the ceiling many herbs, drying. You place the basket of mushrooms on your table, open the wooden door to the larder, and see that it is full. You are stocked up, ready for the challenges of the winter months. It has been a hard few months, the harvest, gathering those things needed, wanted. But now is the time to move through from the kitchen to the living room. It is small and warm. A fire burns in the fireplace opposite the doorway in which you've just walked. A window on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side a wall. Upon the wall there are pictures, portraits of family members long since passed, friends and family. In front of the fireplace, 2 worn red leather armchairs, high-backed and comfortable. And above the fireplace a portrait sits. Take a seat in one of the chairs. Warm yourself by the fire. Take some time to reassess where you are now. Where you have been this last year. For the wheel of the year spins its final spin this month. As the new energies of the new year begin after Samhain, after the end of October. Sit for a while, relax, and take some time to think on what you have achieved this year. What challenges you have overcome, what strength you have found within yourself, the good you have done, the joy you have brought to others, to yourself. Try not to count these as material gains, bonuses or new cars, but in the good that you have brought to your friends, to your family, to yourself, the happiness in your heart, the joy from the hearth of the fire that burns before you. There may be space in this time for times that you have found challenging, things that you do not believe that you have overcome, sadness or fear or doubt. In this time and space, take a while to write these things down upon the parchment paper beside you. Tear off the strip with it on, and cast it into the fireplace. You do not need to carry those things with you into this next year. Let them go. Do this for a while, and soon enough my voice will return. Your attention is now drawn to the portrait that hangs above the fireplace, to that ancestor. They may be well known to you, or they may be from a distant past. But they put you in mind of all of your family members that have gone before. Indeed, all of the aspects of you that have gone before. Take a while to think of the different versions of you that there have been in this lifetime. To think about your family. Parents and grandparents, and further down the ancestral line. As you think upon them, as you stare into the fire, as you remember, you become aware of a presence sitting in the other armchair to the other side of the fire. And as you turn to look, you see the embodiment of this ancestor, sitting, smiling, waiting. They do not come at this time to judge you, chastise you, to show you any disappointment or sadness, to remind you of promises unkept or achievements missed. They offer themselves at this time to listen as you assess and reassess this year, this lifetime. Your work, your home life, your achievements. Try to take time to acknowledge your achievements outside of the material world, as we've said. Think of kindness, caring, loving deeds which are priceless. If you seek advice, help upon your path, guidance, take this time to ask the ancestor here. And again, you may wish to write those things down upon the parchment and throw it into the fire. And let the dancing flames show you the way, show you pictures, thoughts, symbols and signs. All the while warming you, reminding you you are prepared, you are able. You have those things that you need to move forwards. Take this time then, and again, shortly, my voice will return. After you have thought your last thought, talked your last talk with the ancestor, a moment of contented silence, just listening to the crackling of the fire, the softness, the peace, the contentment. The warmth of the fire, the blanket around your legs, the peace and contentment, the support and love of your ancestors help you to softly and gently fall into a deep, contented sleep. Calm, peaceful, purposeful. And as you fall to rest in that world, it starts to fade. The walls and ceiling and floor of that world fade. The fireplace fades. You start to breathe a little more deeply and bring your attention back into the here and now. Become more aware of your fingers and toes. You can move them gently once more, stretch a little if you wish. Breathe a little more deeply. Give thanks to the guardians and guides that have seen you on this journey, to the ancestors. Give thanks to yourself for taking this time. Grounded and protected then, calm and relaxed. Softly and gently, without rushing but as soon as you're able, open your eyes and return.